The WWF, what the world is watching. Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade, now at episode 156. I am your host, Ray Russell, and this week, guys, we finally conclude October of 1988 in the World Wrestling Federation when we take a look at the 5th season debut of Saturday Night's Main Event. Can't wait to get there in just a moment, but think about it, guys. So many episodes, now 5 weeks of October 88 TV, not counting the news and results portion of the month as well, and now finally going to close this thing out. 6 episodes covering the month of October, and as much fun as it's been, I can't wait to get to November because that means Survivor Series right around the corner. But first, lots of great action here this week. We're going to see the finish of the feud, the final showdown between Jake the Snake Roberts and Ravishing Rick Rude. Of course, the Snake Man not only going to have Damien in his corner, but Cheryl Roberts going to be ringside as well. No doubt Rick Rude going to be accompanied by Bobby the Brain Heenan. Also, the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, returns to NBC to take on King Haku, who will be King of the Ring after that one. We won't have to wait too long to find out. And how is Hulk Hogan doing his recovery from the beatdown at the hands of the Big Boss Man just a week ago on the Brother Love show? That could be telling. If anybody can take advantage, it is King Haku. Also, the tag team titles on the line. WWF Tag Team Champions Demolition, Axe, and Smash to defend against Bret the Hitman Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the Hart Foundation right here this week. Demos and Hart Foundation. You can't go wrong there. Plus, Dino Bravo going to try to take it to the United States of America when he takes on U.S. Olympian Ken Patera. It's the Canadian strongman versus the Olympic strongman, and perhaps the winner of this one will become the world's strongest man. But no doubt Dino Bravo looking to send a message to one Hacksaw Jim Duggan as he looks to take apart Ken Patera and another piece of Americana. If all of that wasn't enough, the Big Boss Man slated for singles action here tonight against one Jim Powers. And I got to be honest with you, I don't like Jimmy's odds. In fact, if Paul Roma was teaming with Powers here tonight, I wouldn't like their odds either. The Big Boss Man sent a message last week going after the Hulkster. And the next in line, the young stallion, Jimmy Powers, right here tonight. But in order to get into things, we got to kick things off. Let's head off now to the opening promos of the October 29th, 1988 edition of Saturday Night's Main Event.
Pleasure and pain. Rick Rude, there are some pleasures in this world you will never, ever get to know. But pain, after tonight, you'll know everything there is to know about pain. I know you can give pain to a woman. We both know that. But what I want to know is, can you take pain like a man? See, that's something Damien and I really want to know. How would that be, Cheryl?
It'll be a pleasure.
We know what Cheryl Roberts' pleasure is. It's being close to Ravishing Rick Rude. Look at that smile. That's a happy woman.
And she's going to be even happier, because when our match is over, Damien's going to be wrapped around Jake's neck, and Cheryl's going to be wrapped around mine.
The slickster here, unveiling America's most potent weapon in the war against crime, the Big Boss Man. And the Boss Man is here to enforce the law of the land.
The harder I hit you, the harder you'll land.
Hey, but it's all constitutional because the Boss Man will read you your rights.
You have the right to suffer. You have the right to feel pain. If you wish to have an attorney present, I'll hurt him too.
We were World Tag Team Champions before, and after tonight, we're gonna be World Tag Team Champions again.
And this time, without Jimmy Hart in our corner,
Demolition!
The Hart Foundation is hell-bent on reconstruction.
Reconstruction, huh?
After Demolition gets finished with you, Hart Foundation, there won't be anything left to reconstruct.
I've said all along that the Hart Foundation can't win this title without me, and tonight I'm gonna prove it.
The proof is in the pudding.
Tonight, King Haku, we'll find out who the real king of the ring is. You've been sitting on your lofty throne long enough, man. You think you're better than anybody else. You think that you and your manager, Bobby Heenan, can treat people like dirt and get away with it. Well, tonight, on the main event, the lovely Elizabeth is gonna help me reset your crown and knock you off your throne.
And revitalize Baltimore, Maryland. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Saturday night's main event. I'm Vince McMahon along with Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh, man, whether you're a kid way back in the 1980s, in my mid-40s now, when that Jake promo popped up, just sends chills down your spine because you know for the next 90 minutes of television, you're in for a treat because we didn't get matches like this on the syndicated TV show. So very exciting here tonight. We heard from Jake and Cheryl Roberts. We kick off with the two kissing at the beginning of that segment. Jake talks pleasure and pain. Some pleasure Rick Rude will never know, but pain he will feel tonight, and that will be a pleasure. Like the play there, Rick Rude and Bobby Heenan respond. Rude still with Cheryl on his tights, I might add. I wrote LOL at this segment here by the way Rick Rude was gyrating, Cheryl's face, if you will. As the Ravishing One states, Damien is going to be wrapped around Jake's neck, while Cheryl will be wrapped around Rick's. From there, we heard from the Big Boss Man and the Doctor of Style Slick, and all I can say is, poor Jimmy Powers, because tonight he has the right to suffer, the right to feel pain. And if you want an attorney present, he'll feel pain too. Then let us not forget the tag team title match, the Hart Foundation, looking to regain the belts, talking about reconstruction of Demolition. And of course, we hear from Axe and Smash, but they're not alone. Not only is Mr. Fuji by their side, but also Jimmy Hart. As Fuji states, the proof is in the pudding. Boy-san, very good, Mr. Fuji. Gonna bring Jimmy Hart out to ringside, it would seem once again. It worked at SummerSlam. Let's see what happens here tonight on Saturday night's main event. And then from there, Hulkamania himself, the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, believes that he is the true king of the ring, brother. Gonna knock Haku off his throne right here tonight as welcome to the debut of the 5th season of Saturday night's main event on NBC. Can you believe it, guys? And this edition of Saturday night's main event aired on NBC, taped back only 4 days prior, October 25th, aired here October 29th from Baltimore, Maryland, the old Baltimore Arena. Hosts, of course, are Vince McMahon and Jesse the Body Ventura, who is rocking what I would refer to as a cool old-school gangster type look, a nice suit and a cool hat. Dig the duds, Jess. As they play it off as the Body dressed for Wall Street. Okay. And it's at this point we go back in time, a quick feud recap of the 7-month-long Jake Roberts-Rick Rude feud, way back to April when the altercation between Rude and Cheryl took place in the crowd, all the way up to Jake ripping the tights off of Ravishing Rick. And that sets us up right now, guys, the final showdown between the Snake and the Ravishing One, as we go off now to Mean Gene Okerlund, standing by with Rick Rude and manager Bobby Heenan.
All right, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Ravishing Rick Rude. We've just seen the tape where Jake the Snake Roberts humiliated you by removing your ring attire. Now, as a journalist, I must ask, why do you insist upon wearing those tights? Rick Rude, all you're doing is provoking Jake Roberts. You could be beaten, and you could get national exposure of the embarrassing kind.
Hey, I'm never embarrassed of my body, and besides, Jake and Damian couldn't beat me in a three-legged race.
Well, you can laugh now, but who's going to get the last laugh? All you're doing is enraging Jake Roberts to a greater effort, and those tights could be removed.
Listen and learn, you little humanoid. You ever seen those towel-headed swamis, those snake charmers? How they get their hands moving, and how the snake watches, and the snake gets drowsy, and the drowsy finally goes to sleep, and then
a rude awakening!
All right, thank you very much, Rick Rude, Bobby Heenan. Vince, it's another ploy in my mind on the part of Bobby Heenan, having Rick Rude wearing those tights. We're going to find out in short order. Let's get back to you.
Well, as you might suspect, for those who haven't watched this edition in quite a while, lots of hip gyrations with Cheryl on the tights there from the Ravishing one. Mean Gene thinks it might be a national exposure for Rude tonight. Jake might be ripping those tights off once again. Rick then cracking a joke about being able to beat Jake in a three-legged race. Oh my boy. Rick Rude going to charm Jake like a snake, and then once he's out, a rude awakening. Well, we'll have to wait and see about that. Right now, we're going to go back to Mean Gene one more time. This time, we're going to hear from the opposite side of the spectrum. Here is the duo of Jake and Cheryl Roberts.
All right, Jake the Snake, the scene has been set. Rick Rude will wear those insulting tights tonight.
No, he's not going to be wearing them for long, man. I promise you no.
Wait a minute, that's just my point. Are you so distracted by the insult to your manhood that you...
You get this right, Mean Gene. To insult a man, you have to be a man. I am not insulted by Rick Rude. Not at all. But Cheryl is. And that is enough for Damian and me.
Well, now, doesn't that give Rude and Heenan the psychological advantage?
Listen, my man. The whole Heenan family, just like flies. Flies, you know, buzzing around our garden. And I've got the DDT. This is it. Rude and his tights will go down.
On NBC?
Don't worry. Don't sweat it now, Gene. Come on. Damian never sweats. Take it easy. We're covered. Cheryl brought a little something from our garden for Mr. Rude to wear.
Thank goodness for you, Cheryl. What might that be?
A fig leaf for little Rick.
My, Vince, this being the autumn season, I'm a little worried about that leaf. Let's get back to you.
The Snake Man saith, Cheryl has been insulted, and that's all it takes for Jake to seek revenge. Rick Rude and his tights will go down for the last time tonight. Cheryl Roberts then holding up a very small fig leaf to cover little Rick when the tights are removed. Oh my. And then back to the ring. Here it is. Final showdown. Jake the Snake Roberts with wife Cheryl by his side taking on Ravishing Rick Rude with manager Bobby the Brain Heenan. This is it, guys. 7 months in the making, and finally, right here on national TV, it comes to a head. Rick Rude taunting in the ring to get things going, rocking those Cheryl Roberts tights, perhaps for the last time. As Jake going to come ringside, lays Damian aside, and here he comes. Jake slithering into the ring, attacking Rick Rude as the bell sounds, and we're off. Rude going to try for a series of shoulder butts in the corner, but runs right into a Snake Man knee lift. Nice spot there. Jake going for the tights of Rude early on, but Rick going to block it. Jake deciding to work the arm instead of the Ravishing one, but calling for the DDT, and Rick Rude wisely escaping to the floor. Not going to have any of that this quickly into the matchup. Once back inside, Rude ducking the short arm clothesline, landing his own clothesline to take Jake down. And with Roberts now staggering, Rick Rude begins to pick his shots, lay him in. Super hot crowd, by the way, here. The crowd really into this one, as they should be. As Rude going to taunt Cheryl Roberts from afar, in between a methodical beatdown of the Snake Man. Jesse Ventura on commentary sees lust in the eyes of Cheryl Roberts. Lust in the eyes. Anyway, back to the matchup. Rick Rude turning to Cheryl one time too many, and Jake retaliates with a big clothesline and a series of those patented jabs from Jake Roberts here as the crowd begins to call for the DDT. And Jake landing the gut buster. And with Rick Rude down on the mat, Jake Roberts going to drag him over to the ropes, hold his hands behind his back, holding Rick Rude, sticking Rude's face through the ropes wide open there, and Cheryl going to get up from her seat, walk over, and slap the shit out of Ravishing Rick Rude. Huge pop from the crowd, as you might suspect, and Bobby Heenan calling for a disqualification. Cheryl Roberts' interference there, slapping the Rude man. but referee Joey Morella gonna let it fly. As the action continues on, Jesse Ventura gonna make an excellent point. If that were Bobby Heenan or even a Jimmy Hart, they'd be disqualified for putting their hands on the wrestler. However, not so much here. Ventura thinks that Vince McMahon is sexist for not seeing Cheryl as an equal. Boy, there's lots to unpack there, so we won't get into it here. Vince McMahon, sexist, or, well, like I said, we won't get into it here as we continue on with the action. At this point, Joey Morella exits the ring to politely explain to Cheryl that she must leave ringside after physically getting involved in the matchup. Jake Roberts going to escort his wife up the aisle as we head into a commercial break. All right, so Cheryl Roberts being forced from ringside, Bobby Heenan will remain. Keep that in mind, guys, as we come back from break. Just a few seconds shaved off from the exit of Cheryl Roberts, now up the aisle. Rude going to try a sneak attack to Jake on the floor, but Roberts fighting right back. The Ravishing One, however, sending the Snake Man into the steel post head first and then repeatedly ramming Jake's shoulder into the post as well. Down goes Jake and out on the floor. And Rude once again going to gyrate for the fans to a very loud chorus of boos. Get your heel heat there, Rick. As Jake, though, slowly going to recover, re-entering the ring, going to lay in a series of jabs, and now down goes the Ravishing One, and then a big backdrop. Rick Rude landing on his keister there. Going to break a tailbone doing that, Rick. As Jake going to call for it, looking for it, and the crowd erupts, looking for that DDT. And he hooks it in, cinches it in, grabs that front face lock, but Rick Rude counters with a backdrop. Nice counter there. Rick Rude fighting out of the DDT once again. I don't know how many times you can do that, Rick, but it worked that time. And with Jake now back down on the mat, Rick Rude climbing to the top rope, delivering that patented top rope fist drop of his, but he makes a nonchalant cover and only gets a 2 count. And lots of heat here from the crowd. Love this crowd here. Rude now looking for that rude awakening neckbreaker as he begins to slowly turn Jake into the move, slowly turning Jake back to back to deliver the hold. But Roberts, a last-ditch effort, begins biting the arm of Rick Rude and escapes the maneuver. And with the Snake now free, he's unable to capitalize. Rick Rude going to remain in control of the action, and it's the Ravishing One looking for a big backdrop himself, but Jake stops short. Rude ducks as Roberts signals for a big punch, but as Rude bends over, Jake gonna pull the punch and lock it in. Well, it's right in front of you, Jake. Here it is, the DDT, and it connects. Down goes Rude, and you better believe he is out cold. Bobby Heenan going absolutely nuts, leaping up onto the apron, up onto the ropes. Bobby Heenan motioning to the back, waving for anyone to get out here. But rather than go straight for the cover, Jake Roberts going to elect to once again rip the tights off of the Ravishing One. And then, as Jake goes for the pants, Bobby Heenan jumping into the ring, punting Roberts in the back, in the head, stomping Jake down, causing a disqualification. We get about 7.5 minutes of action here on both sides of the break, and it looks like Jake Roberts going to get the win by DQ, landing his finisher, the DDT, but he cannot get the win. Bobby Heenan going to save his man Rude, going to try to save his dignity, keep him from having his pants ripped off again on national broadcast television, but also preventing him from eating a pin. And while Jake initially sells the attack from behind from the brain, the Snake Man eventually going to work his way back to his feet, grabbing hold of Bobby Heenan. But that's when we learn Heenan wasn't just calling out anyone to come to the ring, but rather Andre the Giant. There it is, the 8th wonder of the world, making his way out to ringside. Oh boy, look out, Jake. And as the Snake grabs Heenan, looks like Bobby's in all sorts of trouble here. It's Andre the Giant from behind, attacking Roberts. Giant headbutt, gonna lay Jake out. And with Roberts down on the opposite side of the ring, Andre and Heenan going to kneel and check on the condition of one Rick Rude. But what the heels don't realize is Jake is making a recovery on the far side of the ring. And out comes Damien from the bag. Jake Roberts going to pull Damien the Snake out, and the heels have no clue as of yet. So Damien out of the bag, Jake holding him up for the crowd to applaud. As Heenan going to climb outside of the ring. Of course, Rick Rude laid out on the apron, but Andre standing up in the ring and slowly turns around to see Jake and Damien staring right at him. Now, at first, on commentary, Jesse Ventura thinks Damien is no trouble for a giant, but it appears to be the other way around. Andre the Giant taking one glimpse of the snake and appears to be scared? Tremendous facials. I can't do it justice explaining it here. You can go check out the pictures I took and posted on social media, or do yourselves a treat and go back and watch this segment on Saturday night's main event. Andre's selling here is just phenomenal as he turns around and he sees Jake standing there with Damien in hand and the Giant holding up his hand. Now hold on there, boss. Andre visibly shaken at the sight of Damien holding his hand up, asking Jake to please stay back. But the Giant looking down at Bobby Heenan, who can't help him in his position here. Andre looking for help from his manager, shouting, basically begging for Bobby's help and for Roberts to back away. Jake now, he sees what's going on here, having some fun with the Giant, having fun at Andre's expense, teasing, gonna throw Damien on Andre. And finally, it comes to fruition when the Snake Man tosses Damien onto Andre, and the Giant is terrified. Andre falling into the ropes, slowly collapsing down to the mat, Damien slithering all over the Eighth Wonder. Andre begins clutching at his chest, his heart, and slowly, it appears the Giant passes out. The Giant out cold. And Jake gonna snatch Damien up in celebration as the Giant is out like a light and what appeared to be a heart attack. Sorry, Brett. And the Snake Man going to exit the ring in celebration. The fans love what they just saw. Terrible fans. Popping for the potential death of Andre the Giant here. Vince McMahon putting over that Jake Roberts has just solidified himself as a top star by throwing a snake on another man, okay. Meanwhile, Bobby Heenan finally jumping in to check on his man. Bobby showing serious concern here in his facials, even slapping Andre, trying to wake him up, trying to revive him, even performing sort of a CPR, if you will, kind of pounding on the chest of the Giant, shouting for any help to get out here right now for his Eighth Wonder. But as we head into a commercial break, we see no movement from Andre, and the crowd doesn't seem to mind. Wow. Lots to unpack there in that segment, but we're not done yet, guys. Back from break, we see Andre the Giant finally sitting up with a myriad of officials in there trying to help him up, kind of get him back to his feet. Andre slowly rolling out to the floor with Bobby Heenan hugging him in a sign of relief. Bobby Heenan happy that Andre will be okay, as he appears to be for right now. So indeed, it wasn't a heart attack like we may have suspected, but perhaps a serious panic attack. The Giant clearly still shaken and wobbly, slowly staggering his way back to the locker room with manager Bobby Heenan by his side. Now, I'm no doctor. I can't classify, but it appears we may have a severe case of ophidiophobia, the fear of snakes. Wow, lots to look at here, really. My thoughts in regards to this entire deal, which went roughly almost the first third of the event, of the program. Excellent storytelling from beginning to end. Now, you may say, well, the snake, and he's scared of a snake, and that's kind of hokey. You can look at that any which way you want, but the storytelling itself, the way they finish the Jake Roberts, Rick Rude story here on TV, and yes, I would have liked to seen a pinfall there, but they weren't going to bury either guy here on national broadcast television, let's face it, guys. And they perfectly bleed one feud into another. Jake Roberts will continue his feud with the Heenan family, but as Rick Rude slithers out, pardon the pun, Andre the Giant going to factor his way in. Andre coming down to ringside there to help Heenan family member Rick Rude made sense. So at first, we didn't necessarily expect that it would evolve as quickly as it did there, but what happened next was definitely unexpected by all. Even Jesse Ventura on commentary initially sold it as, what's a snake gonna do to a giant? Little did Jesse or the rest of the world know, apparently the Giant clearly had a phobia, a fear of snakes, and I can't put over Andre's selling here, his facials, his actions to sell this angle. You have to go watch it yourself. And then Andre gonna crumple down and quote-unquote pass out, as Bobby Heenan shows great concern for his man, pounding on his chest as if to revive him, resuscitate the Giant. Now, this is just one of those rare cases of Maybe it didn't sound like the greatest story on paper, Andre's Afraid of Snakes, but the people involved were just excellent in their spots, every one of them, leading to great storytelling by the World Wrestling Federation and, of course, the stars that were involved in said story. And a new feud for the Snake Man. Jake Roberts going to get elevated even more, moving into a feud with Andre the Giant. And I should mention, remember, in the middle of that matchup, Cheryl Roberts sent away from ringside as she gets her final bit of revenge, slapping Rick Rude across the face. This also quietly marks the end of Cheryl Roberts' on-air run. But we have a new feud of brewing. Another one concludes 7 months. Wow, Rick Rude and Jake Roberts. What a story, and how ironic is it that their final match is their most compelling on TV. Unfortunately, no finish, but people forgot all about Rick Rude and Jake Roberts when Andre came to ringside and Damien came out of the bag. Great storytelling for the time, and I'm sure we'll have more on that in the weeks and months to come, guys. But for right now, we talked about Andre having a potential heart attack. Well, speaking of heart attacks, we head backstage right now. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with the Hart Foundation.
All right, gentlemen, here it is. A shot at the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Belt on network television. But you've got to get by one of the finest teams in all of wrestling. I'm talking about Demolition, along with their always dangerous, inscrutable manager, Mr. Fuji. Not to mention your ex-manager, Jimmy Hart.
Yeah, well, don't mention him.
Who, Jimmy Hart?
We told you not to mention him. We're sick of Jimmy Hart. He drove us crazy with that stupid megaphone, barking orders with that high-pitched hyena voice of his.
But he got you the tag team title.
Got us the title? He lost the title for us.
Well, you're going to have to win it tonight from Axe and Smash the Demolition. And by the way, Jimmy Hart has let out a couple of your secrets. Is that going to hurt?
There's no secret to what we do. We rely on speed and teamwork. It got us the title once, and it's going to get us the title again. Jimmy Hart, you can't hurt us.
The only way Jimmy Hart can hurt someone is to manage them.
All right, Vince, those are two men with a whole new look, a whole new direction. Will it lead to the pinnacle or the abyss? Back to you.
Well, the Harts have their tag team title shot here tonight on NBC, taking on the champions Demolition as they state they're sick of Jimmy Hart and that high-pitched voice on the megaphone. Gene says that Jimmy won them the titles. Well, they correct Gene. Jimmy lost them the titles. They have no worries about their former manager being ringside. The only way Jimmy Hart could hurt someone is to manage them. The Hart Foundation looking to excellently execute their way back to tag team gold here tonight. And right now we go backstage once again. This time it's Jesse Ventura standing by with the tag team champions Demolition, Mr. Fuji, and Jimmy Hart.
Jesse. Jimmy Hart, I got a question for you.
No, Jesse the Body, let me ask you one first.
That's a little unorthodox, but go ahead, Jimmy.
What weighs over 500 pounds, has 4 legs, no brains, and pink all over?
You got me, what?
The Hart Foundation!
Jimmy, that gets me to my question. You seem to have aligned yourself with Mr. Fuji and Demolition against your old tag team, the Harts. What's the deal?
They deserted me, Jesse, and I want to prove to the whole world that the Hart Foundation is nothing without me. They were nothing before me, and they are nothing now. I taught them everything they know, and now I've told it all to Mr. Fuji.
Information, very good. Knowledge is power.
And we learn fast.
And we win faster.
Jimmy, what's your current relationship with the Fabulous Rougeaus brothers?
They'll be here to observe several broken hearts.
Axe, back to matters at hand. You've got a big title defense tonight. The Harts can be extremely dangerous. Do you think you might take a somewhat conservative approach?
Yeah, Jesse, we'll be conservative, and we'll let them be liberals.
Right. Bleeding heart liberals.
Well, there you got it, McMahon. The inside story from the world of wrestling and the world of politics.
Jimmy Hart looking to prove that the Hart Foundation are nothing without him. And he's told the Demolition and Mr. Fuji everything he knows about the challengers here tonight. Jimmy Hart promising broken hearts before this one's over. Is Axe going to talk about a conservative approach? Getting into politics here, Axe? Sure, the Demolition will be conservatives, and the Foundation can be liberals. Bleeding heart liberals. Clearly, the people writing the Saturday Night Live sketches were also writing some of these Saturday Night Main Event promos as well, but it was fun. A different kind of promo there from Demolition Axe as we go back to the ring for tag team action. Going to see Axe and Smash defend against the Hart Foundation, and yes, indeed, Mr. Fuji and Jimmy Hart accompanying the champions to the ring for this one. And as the bell sounds, it's going to be the Anvil and Axe going to start off here trading blows, but Neidhart winding up in the champion's corner, and we get a good old-fashioned Demolition double team beatdown on the Anvil here. And 4 fistuses involved means clubbering, if you ask the American Dream babies. Neidhart, though, able to reverse a Smash suplex and tag out to the Hitman. Bret Hart in now, dropping Smash with a drop kick and his patented middle rope elbow. Doesn't even get a 1 count. A little bit early to be going for the cover there, Bret. Demolition, though, battling back as Smash sends Bret Hart chest first into the turnbuckle, and the tag team champions do take control. From there, we get lots of the usual quality heel double teaming from the champs, even luring Jim Neidhart into the ring for illegal double teaming, and Mr. Fuji using his cane to choke out Bret Hart on the apron as well. Looks like the champions have this one in firm control. Jesse Ventura going to point out that if the Hart Foundation had kept Jimmy Hart around, maybe this wouldn't be happening right now. Well, that's a good point, Jesse. You seem to make them quite often. Meanwhile, the action continues on. The champions picking apart the Hitman while taunting the Anvil in between. And Bret Hart, though, going to muster enough energy to trade some punches. They look good, but it's not enough as Axe and Smash continue their onslaught. Finally, though, Bret Hart able to duck a Smash clothesline, come back off the ropes on the rebound with a sit-out clothesline of his own. Picture the heart attack finisher, minus the Anvil's part. Bret Hart coming in with that hooking clothesline, taking Smash down, and Bret Hart finally able to make that long crawl to the corner and tag in the fresh Jim Neidhart. And the Anvil explodes, a house of fire. Taking it to both members of Demolition is Jim Neidhart here, chopping at Axe, smashing Smash, clothesline on both members of Demolition, drop kicks for the champions as well. Not the greatest drop kicks I've ever seen the Anvil throw, mind you, but he's putting in the effort. As Neidhart then going to scoop up the near 300-pound Demolition Smash and drive him down into the ring. Big power slam. That Anvil flattener going to get 1, 2, Axe in to break up the cover, and in comes the Hitman to even the odds. The Hart Foundation brawling with Demolition, all 4 men in the ring, and the Harts send the Demos colliding center ring, running into one another. Neidhart makes the cover on Smash as Bret fights Axe off into the corner. There is chaos everywhere, guys, as Mr. Fuji now up on the apron to run distraction, but the Hitman blasting Fuji off the apron. Meanwhile, Axe attacking the Hitman from behind, and those two are right back at it. And referee Joey Morella trying to separate the illegal members, trying to get Axe and Bret Hart out of the ring. Meanwhile, on the far side behind the ref's back, Jimmy Hart now on the apron, and Jim Neidhart back to his feet, scooping Jimmy up on the apron, scooping him into the air. The Anvil trying to get some revenge on his former manager. Looks like Jimmy Hart about to get his comeuppance, it would appear. But then, out of nowhere, the Fabulous Rougeaus brothers arrive ringside. Jacques and Raymond. In fact, Raymond up on the apron and the Anvil, dropping Jimmy Hart, going after Raymond Rougeau. Neidhart going to take a wild swing at Raymond, grab hold of him. Meanwhile, behind everyone's back, Jacques Rougeau pitching Jimmy Hart's megaphone into the ring, caught by Smash, who blasts Neidhart across the back with that foreign object. Down goes the Anvil, and Smash going to make the cover as the Rougeaus run off. Like thieves in the night, the megaphone tossed ringside, and referee Joey Morella turning around just in time to make the 1, 2, 3. Demolition stealing another win here, and they will retain the tag team titles. The Rougeau brothers have cost the Hart Foundation potential victory and the belts. All of this in just 5 minutes and 56 seconds. And while this wasn't the most action-packed matchup, the tag formula was there. And honestly, what are you guys going to do with 6 minutes in a world title match on TV? Demolition gets some quick heat, and off to the finish we go. Still your champions, Axe and Smash. But the big story here is the continued issues between the Hart Foundations, the Rougeau brothers, and manager Jimmy Hart. The Foundation do a job here on national TV, but it took 6 men, a cane, and a megaphone to beat them. No doubt the Hart Foundation Rougeaus feud will go on, but what's next for the tag team champions, Demolition? Good way to get the champs on TV and continue a feud between the Harts and the Rougeaus at the same time. As we go into a commercial break here, we get a quick Hulk Hogan bumper promo, who says tonight he is coming for the king. He's going to blow the roof off the building tonight, and with the roof goes the crown. We also have time for Sean Mooney with the Mountain Dew Slam of the Night, featuring the Ultimate Warrior, the Intercontinental Champion, putting away another poor victim. The big Gorilla Press drop and splash there as the Ultimate Warrior, part of the Mountain Dew Slam of the Night.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puroresu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. And of course, now would be a fantastic time to become a WrestleCopia patron over at Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, Patreon.com/WrestleCopia, where you get so many gifts, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade Show, Regional Wrestling, and the Monday Warfare podcast. You'll also get early access to a lot of the podcasts here on the WrestleCopia brand, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. But that's still not all, guys. You also get at least a dozen digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure each and every month, plus random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon exclusive Watch Along series covering many past WWF and WCW events. And if that's not all, videocasts, also now a part of Patreon. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month, guys. I think you'll like the content that I offer, and every penny of it goes right back here into paying the bills. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia. Help me pay some of the bills to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and all of the great shows here up and running for the months and the years to come.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
As we come back to the program proper, we go back in time, way back in time, to before WrestleMania 4, going back to March of 1988. We see a replay of the King Harley Race's injury that took place right here on Saturday night's main event. Of course, the King taking on Hulk Hogan at the time. Harley Race taking that diving headbutt off the apron through a table, the Hulkster moving out of the way just in the nick of time. Harley Race going through the table, of course, causing some internal issues, forcing nearly 2 feet of intestine to be removed from Harley's insides. And of course, we have not seen the King since WrestleMania 4, although he is back on the house shows and will be returning to TV very soon. But since that time, Harley Race's time on the throne has seemingly come to an end. He has abdicated the throne, and Bobby Heenan has christened Haku the new king of the World Wrestling Federation. I wonder how that's going to play out when Harley Race returns. Well, tonight Haku's got bigger fish to fry, at least in the short term, in the form of Hulk Hogan. As we go backstage now, we're going to hear from Mean Gene Okerlund as he talks with Bobby the Brain Heenan, who is standing with King Haku.
Bobby Heenan, this has not been the best of nights for you thus far with Ravishing Rick Rude, Andre the Giant.
Hey, that's private family business. Stay out of it, pal.
Okay, Mr. Heenan, we all saw the tape and what happened to Harley Race when he went up against the Hulkster. Now, with everything going so well for King Haku, why risk it all against Hulk Hogan? Bobby Heenan, is it the persuasive powers of the manager, the lovely Elizabeth?
The lovely Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
I'll admit that woman is a force to be reckoned with. But this match was made because King Haku decreed it. And after what Hogan did to Harley Race right here on the main event, he made a royal oath to me that he's going to avenge it tonight. And he's going to do that tonight.
Hey, is that right, King Haku? Hey, wait a minute, King Haku.
He's not going to talk to you because you have low-life peasant blood running through your veins. And unless you want to spill over the floor here, you keep your mouth shut and leave the king alone.
Well, Bobby, you answer this question. If Hulk Hogan wins, are you going to bow down?
Bow down?
Yeah, bow.
You mean bow down?
What did
Come
I
on,
just say?
Show me how to bow.
I don't have to do
You
that.
brought it up, Big Mouth. Show me how to bow.
It's very simple, Bobby Heenan. All you do is this.
See, even a low-life humanoid like him is going to bow. Let's go.
Hey, wait a minute, Bobby Heenan. I wasn't bowing to King Haku. I was tricked. Bobby Heenan tricked me. One thing I know for a fact, you will not trick Hulk Hogan. No king, nobody can fool Hulk Hogan. Vince, let's go back to you.
Bobby Heenan refusing to discuss the Andre situation right now, the elephant in the room. But we do talk a little King Haku here, as after what Hulk Hogan did to Harley Race, Haku has made a royal oath to get revenge for the Heenan family tonight. If Hogan wins, does that make him king of the ring, Gene ponders? Would Bobby Heenan bow? Heenan then uses his brains to trick Mean Gene into bowing for him. Always fun banter between those two as we run backstage one more time. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with the Hulkster himself.
Well, Hulk, it's a pleasure to have you back on the main event, but I must inquire as to your physical condition after last week's incident with the Big Boss Man.
Well, I won't deny that the Hulkster's a little battered and I'm a little bruised, brother. But, Boss Man, you beat me like a dog, and every dog has his day.
Well, then, given your physical state, is there any question about King Haku? Will he rule as king of the ring tonight?
No way, Mean Gene. Heenan and Haku are going around telling all my Hulkamaniacs to bow down in servitude. Nobody tells my Hulkamaniacs what to do, and nobody should have to bow down to anybody. Tonight, I'm going to knock that king right off his throne.
Wait a minute, Hulkster. What about the presence of Bobby Heenan? Does that concern you?
Nothing concerns the Hulkster, Mean Gene, when I have additional inspiration.
Additional inspiration?
Yes, the First Lady of Wrestling on loan from my mega power partner, Macho Man Randy Savage.
Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mean Gene. Come on, Hulkster. We've got a date with royalty.
Oh, Vince, I gotta tell you, all the kings and queens in history pale in comparison to those two. Let's get back to you.
All right, before we get into tonight's big match, Hulk Hogan going to reference last week's beating at the hands of the Big Boss Man. Hogan admitting that he was beaten like a dog, but every dog has his day. Man, what is it with people and beating dogs back then? I blame David Crockett. Anyway, back to the promo. Mean Gene asking the Hulkster, will Haku continue his rule as king? No way, dude. Nobody should bow down to anyone, says Hogan, and he's going to knock that king right off his royal throne here tonight. Hulk then introducing his additional inspiration. Hogan bringing in the lovely Miss Elizabeth, who is, as he says, on loan from Randy Savage. Elizabeth going to pull the Hulkster off screen as she states he has a date with royalty. Wow, a little weird seeing Elizabeth here solo with Hulk Hogan, no Randy Savage in sight. But the Hulkster better keep his eyes on King Haku as we head back to the ring. We see Haku escorted out, carried out on his royal sedan. The mini job guys carrying Haku to the ring on his mobile throne, if you will. Of course, out second, Hulk, led by the lovely Miss Elizabeth, as Jesse Ventura, he thinks it's very peculiar, noting he's never seen Elizabeth without the Macho Man. Thank you, Jess. Once the babyface duo get to ringside, Elizabeth offering to hold the ropes open for the Hulkster, but it is Hulk Hogan who says, "No, brother." Or is it sister? Or maybe it's something else. The Hulkster says, no, though, and opens the ropes for Elizabeth instead. What a kind gesture there. And as we get things going here, Haku going to see an opening early on. Referee Earl Hebner, or whichever Hebner he's pretending to be at this point, checking Hogan for illegal objects. And it's the King sneaking in with the cheap shot, chopping Hogan near the throat area, and then going to town, taking over, working Hogan over in the corner, chopping away, biting, raking the eyes of the Hulkster. Ouch, brother. But Hulk Hogan finally going to stand his ground, begins to hammer back, series of big punches, drops Haku to the mat, and now it's the Hulk raking the back of the King. Revenge, dude. Hogan then with a big running clothesline, taking Haku down center ring. Hulk all over the King here, as Jesse Ventura pointing out all of the cheating that Hogan is doing. And Vince can't even argue. Hulkster going to his bag of trickery here. But what you gonna do, brother, when you're in there with Haku, is Bobby Heenan finally grabbing Hogan by his foot on the outside, causing a distraction long enough for Haku to take control as he locks in that deadly trapezius nerve hold O'Doom, keeping Hogan down on the mat momentarily, but the Hulkster finally working his way back to his feet, running into a double chop, however, from Haku, staggering Hogan near the ropes, and Haku gonna plant him with that patented thrust kick right to the face of Hulk Hogan, and the Hulkster gonna tumble through the ropes and out to the floor. And for anyone wondering, Haku went easy on him. Thanks, Tonga, brother. Not the most stiffest of thrust kicks to the facial area, but Haku liked Hulk Hogan. He's making some money here with him right here on NBC, you got to imagine. So Haku working the Hulkster lightly, professionally, if you will. As Hogan now out on the floor, Hulkster slowly getting to his feet. Bobby Heenan going to taunt him from one side, while Elizabeth has words of encouragement on the other side. So Hulk in between both managers here is Bobby Heenan advising Haku to deliver a move off the apron. And the King obliges. Haku out to the apron with a running start, leaping off the apron with a big chop. But the Hulkster pulls the brain in the way. Haku with a flying chop, hitting his own manager. And down goes Bobby Heenan. And the Hulkster sees an opening, so instead of going after Haku, instead he's going to grab the crown, putting it on and running around the ring like a fool to mock the heels. Bobby Heenan out on the floor. Not a great night for Heenan thus far, between Rick Rude, Andre, and now this debacle here with King Haku. And we see the brain being helped away from ringside as we head into a commercial break. And then back from break, a now managerless King Haku will continue the action here with the Hulkster. We see Hogan unloading with a series of shots, rocking the King, but Haku retaliates with a big clothesline and diving headbutt to take back over control. From there, Haku landing a vertical suplex. Gonna get 1, 2, but brother. Hulk Hogan kicking out. And then Hulk's up from a suplex. Hogan showing a little respect here. Not gonna kick out of Haku's kick, but he's gonna kick out of a suplex here from the King back from break. Nevertheless, that doesn't look good for Haku's immediate future as Hogan back to his feet. And it's paint by numbers from here. We get the Hulk up, the 3 big punches, the big boot, and the leg drop. Gonna get the 1, 2, 3. We get about 6 minutes and 20 seconds of action on both sides of the commercial break here. Both sides combined. So another big win for Hulk Hogan. And the posing must follow, pal. Hogan must pose, scoring that win over Haku here on NBC. Hulk even inviting Liz in to pose alongside him. Cupping her ear, Elizabeth having some fun in the crowd, eating it up. Liz and the Hulkster posing for the fans, and then Hulk Hogan scooping Elizabeth up, putting her on his shoulder. No doubt somebody's watching from the back. Elizabeth smiling all the while, soaking it in, enjoying herself. And this just feels really, really weird, even in 2025, watching Hogan out there solo with a lovely Miss Elizabeth without the Macho Man involved anywhere in sight. But another win here on TV. Hulk Hogan back after taking the summer off to film No Holds Barred. More on that next year, guys. And some seeds being planted here from Jesse the Body Ventura on commentary, stating how weird it feels to see Elizabeth out there without the Macho Man. The first time we've ever seen Elizabeth without Randy Savage involved. And it feels weird to me as well as a fan. But Liz eating it up, working with the Hulkster right now out there. Fun win for TV. Bad night for Bobby Heenan. And then it's straight to the back as Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with the world's strongest man, self-professed, Dino Bravo and his manager, Frenchie Martin.
All right, Vince, with me at this time is the manager, Frenchie Martin, along with Dino Bravo, supposedly the strongest man in the world.
He is the strongest man in the world. Everyone saw him when he set the record on TV.
Well, I'll tell you what, gentlemen, I watched the Olympics from Korea, and
Forget about the Olympics. All Olympians are nothing but a bunch of cheaters, just like Ken Patera.
Ken Patera, you can wrap yourself in the American flag all you want. It won't protect you from the strongest man in the world, Dino Bravo, because he carries this flag.
I hate your American red, white, and blue. You Americans will learn to salute the fleur de lis. Ken Patera, you will pledge allegiance to the flag of Dino Bravo.
All right, I recall that Ken Patera, as a U.S. Olympian, was the first man to military press 500 pounds over his head. Tonight, he might just be the first man to send Dino Bravo back across the border.
Well, supposedly the strongest man in the world, still referencing that 1988 Royal Rumble bench press. Ugh. Selling this matchup as Quebec versus America, Canada versus the USA, once again, as Dino Bravo prepares for battle against the U.S. Olympian Ken Patera. Dino Bravo promising that Americans will salute the fleur de lis, while also promising that Ken Patera will pledge allegiance to the flag of Dino Bravo. I actually like that line. As we go off now one more time backstage, Mean Gene Okerlund going to talk with the other side of the matchup now. Here he is, Olympic strongman Ken Patera.
All right, with me at this time is former U.S. Olympian Ken Patera. Ken, you've always done your country proud, but tonight you're facing a very serious challenge. Dino Bravo claims that tonight he wants you to pledge allegiance to his flag.
I'd rather die than dishonor my country. Just like Hacksaw Jim Duggan says, America, either love it or leave it. So Dino Bravo, I hope your passport is in order, because tonight I'm going to stamp it.
All right, Vince, standing here listening to Ken Patera, it makes me proud to be an American.
Well, in response to Dino Bravo, the U.S. Olympian says he'd rather die than dishonor his country. Just like Hacksaw Jim Duggan says, America, Dino Bravo, either love it or leave it. Patera then hoping Dino has his passport in order because tonight he's going to stamp it. Which would have been an awesome line, honestly, except Americans and Canadians, they didn't need passports to cross the border for another 20 years. Maybe he was looking for visa there? I'm not sure. As we go back to the ring, going to see the matchup right now. Ken Patera taking on Dino Bravo with Frenchie Martin in his corner. As we come out of a commercial break, the bell already gone, and away we go. Dino missing a clothesline right off the bat, and Patera taking over, dropping Bravo, planting him with a big slam, sending Dino rolling out to the floor to consult with manager Frenchie Martin. Then back inside, Bravo with a sucker punch. Sends Patera back to the corner. Dino going to work over the U.S. Olympian with a series of drilling shots. Bravo with an Irish whip to the far corner, but Patera reverses, charging in with a big back elbow, driving Dino back into the corner. Kenny now with some revenge, and he lays in the 10 punches in the corner and drives Dino down to the mat. And Patera then looking for his finisher, looking to lock in the full Nelson as he gets his arms under Bravo's, looking to hook the hold, but Dino quickly over to the corner to force the break. Very wise there. Instead, Ken Patera decides to pivot, being forced to release the full Nelson attempt. Kenny now going to Irish whip Dino Bravo to the far corner and charge in to a Dino Bravo boot. Ken Patera now rocked, and Bravo going to capitalize with an inverted atomic drop and that patented side suplex, Jess. Going to get the relatively easy win. Canada over USA tonight as Patera continues his obligations, putting people over on his way out. Match goes a stunning 3 minutes and 4 seconds. And Dino Bravo scoring a win over a lesser talent, at least right now here in 1988. Ken Patera underneath Hacksaw Jim Duggan, no doubt about it, on the totem pole. Both of them representing the USA, however, and so Dino Bravo going to get a win here and build his way to his feud with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Things might not be as easy when you get there, Dino. Just saying. As we go off now, backstage, Mean Gene Okerlund is standing by with the likes of the Big Boss Man and the Doctor of Style, Slick.
All right, thank you, Vince. With me right now, the Slickster, the Doctor of Style, well known to main event audiences, and his latest discovery, the Big Boss Man. Slick, I don't know how you do it. They seem to get bigger and meaner all the time. Where do you find them?
Wait a minute, man. Wait a minute. I need to straighten you out right now. I don't find them, dude. They find me. And the reason they find me is because of my knowledge, my ability, and my mental ingenuity. Now, can you dig it?
Well, I understand as much as I ever do, Slick. Now, Boss Man.
Hey! It's Big Boss Man, punk! Spell it, B-I-G.
All right, Big Boss Man.
I said spell it!
Okay, B-I-G.
Proceed!
Well, we know you're very big, Big Boss Man, but can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
You want to know about me, punk?
Yes.
Look in my eyes! Look deep in my eyes! You see a man who likes to make people suffer. A man who likes to hurt people, like I hurt Hulk Hogan. Don't ever forget it. I love my work. It's my life. And I don't see any reason to change now.
Any more questions, Sherlock?
Yes, I have one. Your opponent tonight for the Big Boss Man, Jimmy Powers. Are you going to handcuff him and club him like you always do?
Hey, what can I say? I mean, if the brother's guilty.
Guilty of what?
Breathing. Let's go.
All right, this is the kind of guy that would bring a box lunch to a lynching. This Big Boss Man makes Dirty Harry look like Regis Philbin. I do not think justice will be served here tonight. Vince, let's go back to you.
Gene asking the Slickster, where does he find these men? They just keep getting bigger and meaner. The Doctor of Style going to correct Gene there. I don't find them. They find me. For his expertise, brother. Okerlund looking for some backstory on the Boss Man. Sorry, the Big Boss Man. All you need to do is look into his eyes. He loves his work. It's his life. Will the Big Boss Man cuff and beat down Jimmy Powers tonight? If he's guilty. Guilty of what? Breathing, says the Big Boss Man. Yikes. I do not like the odds for poor Jimmy Powers as we head back to the ring, our final match of the night, the Big Boss Man, with manager Slick taking on young stallion Jimmy Powers. And the bell sounds as Vince McMahon says, for Jimmy Powers to win, he needs to keep some separation from the former prison guard. So what does Powers do? He comes right at the Big Boss Man, of course. Jimmy going to try for a sleeper right out of the gate, but the Boss Man crushes him back into the corner and follows up with a Stinger-style splash, and that's a 357-pound Stinger splash, I might add. And then from there, the Boss Man with a nasty knee lift and a headbutt. The old leg straddle across the middle rope, does it every time. Just mauling the young stallion as the Boss continues to shout, "Where's Hulk Hogan?" The Boss Man sending a message here, calling out the Hulkster. Meanwhile, Jimmy Powers finally able to duck a clothesline, land a pair of drop kicks here, has the Boss Man knocked back to the ropes. But Big Boss Man quickly turning things around, whipping Jimmy off the ropes into the Boss Man Slam. Sort of a snap Boss Man Slam here, scoring the quick win, 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Down goes Jim Powers. And post-match, the Boss Man, Jimmy, where's Paul Roma when you need him? Handcuff to Jimmy Powers, cuffing him to the ropes, does the Big Boss Man here. And the Slickster going to distract referee Jimmy Corderas, while the Boss Man proceeds to beat down Jim Powers with the nightstick, choking him with it even, standing on Powers' throat at one point here. Nasty beatdown, brutal assault here on NBC, making the Big Boss Man all the more of a credible opponent and the next big threat of one Hulk Hogan. Talk about trying to make a man look impressive here. The Big Boss Man doing away with Jimmy Powers and a beatdown to follow. And speaking of following, we go on next. We go back in time 1 week to a replay, a clip from the Brother Love show, once again showing us the attack the Big Boss Man put on the Hulkster. So using these last couple segments here to put over the Boss Man Hogan feud on the way out of this episode. as we hear Jesse Ventura on commentary here, claiming the Boss Man's attack on Hulk Hogan, one of his most favorite moments in all of his time here in the World Wrestling Federation. I have no doubt, Jesse. And we go backstage one more time. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with Hulk Hogan, who's going to talk his recent issues with the Big Boss Man.
All right, after what I've seen as of late from the Big Boss Man, Hulk Hogan, I get the impression that he wants to put you in the big house.
We know what he wants. We just saw what he did out there with Jim Powers. Every lick of the stick, every jab in the ribs with a nightstick, he was screaming for me. Well, Big Boss Man, I'm still wearing a piece of your jewelry just to remind me how you and the Slickster set me up, how you maced me, how you tried to beat me like a dog with a nightstick. But sooner or later, the WWF is going to have to put us together. And that's when you go on trial, Boss Man. Thousands upon thousands of my Hulkamaniacs, a very biased jury with Hulk Hogan as judge, executioner. You don't have much of a chance. And once I get the Big Boss Man in my court, I'm going to think about what you did to me with a stick. I'm going to think about Slickster macing me in the eyes, and the sentence that you're going to get is a lifelong dose of Hulkamania. But the only thing I'm going to have to find out is how long the jury wants to deliberate. How long do they want to let it go? How long do they want me to beat you with your own stick? What are you going to do, Big Boss Man, when the largest arms in the world and Hulkamania pass a sentence on you?
All right, His Honor, Hulk Hogan. We'll be right back.
Well, there you hear it. The Hulkster dismissing the beatdown on poor Jimmy Powers because he knows it was really meant for him, brother. So it didn't really count when he did it to Jimmy. Hulk then showing off the handcuffs, which are somehow still attached to his wrist from the beatdown on last week's Brother Love show, even though he didn't have them on during his promo or his match earlier with Haku. But, okay. Continuity, pal. The Hulkster says, soon the Big Boss Man will go on trial and his Hulkamaniacs, who are, by the way, a very biased jury, will allow the Hulkster to be the judge and the executioner, dude. How long will the jury deliberate? How long will they allow Hulk Hogan to beat on the Boss Man? Only time will tell. What you gonna do? What you gonna do indeed. Could be the other way around, Hulkster. What are you gonna do when the Boss Man gets his hands on you? We'll have to wait and see. As we've got one more soundbite queued up for you guys here this week. Jesse Ventura now off backstage, going to talk with manager Bobby Heenan, and we're going to see what happened to the eighth wonder of the world, Andre the Giant.
Mean Gene, we're here in a dressing room that there's a lot of confusion going on. Confusion with me, Jesse the Body. Is it true that Andre the Giant has an Achilles heel? Andre the Giant, I saw what happened out there. Are you afraid of snakes?
Don't say I'm afraid of stick, and don't ever mention that word in front of me, okay?
Bobby Heenan, it's obvious that Andre is in trouble.
It's obvious that professional wrestling is no place for a 30-foot python. It's no place for a guy to bring his ugly old lady at ringside. That's bad enough. But then he gets in the ring with a snake. He should have never been allowed to enter a ring, a building, this part of professional wrestling with a snake.
No. Then you said you and our friends before, right? Then you said that.
I'm your friend,
and
Andre.
And I talked to Jack Tunney. And I want to go in the ring with that guy. But don't take that snake in there.
Hey, I've gone on the record plenty of times, Bobby. You know it as well as everyone out there that snake has no business at ringside. I think that Tunney needs to ban it.
You're damn right he does. But don't you mention that word. Don't talk to him about it. Don't talk to anybody about it. Let's address this matter to Jake Roberts. Jake the Snake Roberts. Let's address it here.
We're running out of time, Bobby.
No.
We'll be back in
He's
just
out
a
of
minute.
time.
We'll be back in a
Believe me,
minute.
Jesse, he's out of time.
Well, we've been pondering for nearly the last hour on NBC what happened with Andre once he got backstage. Well, here you see Andre seated on a bench or a table. I mean, he is a giant after all, I'm not really sure, but still selling the effects of his meltdown from earlier tonight. Jesse in disbelief of Andre's fear of snakes. And that's when the Giant immediately takes exception to those comments, grabbing the body by his suit, ordering Jesse Ventura not to call him afraid of anything, including snakes. In fact, never mention the word snake again in front of Andre, as all three heels agree that President Jack Tunney needs to ban the you-know-what. snake. So we get some follow-up there from the storyline earlier. It's clear, it's evident that Andre the Giant is not a fan of snakes, and Jake Roberts just happens to carry a giant python, which is a snake, ringside every night. So we're going to see how that plays out as the weeks go on. As we come back from our final break here on NBC, Vince McMahon, Jesse Ventura sending us home as we get a replay of that Jake Andre altercation in the ring as the credits begin to roll with the Snakes theme playing us out. Very fitting. Wow. Well, we did a lot here on a middling episode of Saturday night's main event. Dino Bravo gets a win over America as Ken Patera on the way out of the company. It aids in Dino's build-up to his matches with the patriotic Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Hulk Hogan takes down another foe in King Haku. The backstory from the Big Boss Man beatdown, really the true story here tonight for the Hulkster, as we get to see the former prison guard destroy Jimmy Powers, and Hogan respond in a promo to close the show, setting up what is basically the main event feud on the house shows moving forward. Let us not forget that tag team champions Demolition get another major win on national TV, and the Hart Foundation get to save face and continue their rivalry with the Fabulous Rougeaus in the process. And of course, the Rude Roberts feud concludes, and Jake immediately finds himself in the biggest feud, literally, of his career when he takes on Andre the Giant moving forward, and we learn that giants have a fear as well. And I really like the fact that this time around they used the NBC program to build new programs involving someone other than a Hulk Hogan, looking to move Jake further up the card, it would appear here, as he sets his eyes on the eighth wonder of the world. And we conclude this edition of Saturday night's main event, which from all the research I could do, drew a 8.7 rating. And based on all of the SNMEs I have ratings for, which is most of them, outside of episodes 2 and 3 back in 1985, this would wind up being the lowest rated Saturday night's main event until 1990. However, I should note that the SNME from a year later, November of 89, would tie this 8.7 rating, however, so maybe it's just that time of year. Lots of new television to watch. I get it. But also kind of a lackluster card outside of looking to that final showdown between Jake and Rude, which really they can't build up all that much on their syndicated programming. Very little advertising done outside of commercials on NBC for the Saturday night's main event show. So the fact that it's even drawing nearly a 9 rating says a lot for the business at the time, the WWF, I should say, at the time. Because a 8.7 rating, or we'll round it up to 9, means that 9% of all households with TVs were watching this event. And I don't have a share, and what a share is, it'll tell you how many TVs were on at that time. So this is 9% of households with TV. That's not saying that some of them were even watching their television. That's truly not bad, because you're saying 1 out of every, say, 11 households that owns a TV was watching this event. It was just special times there in the late 1980s. Hulk, Andre, Macho, the Warrior, Demolition, Hart Foundation, the list goes on. It was a magical time in a youthful Ray Russell's world, and it's a magical time going back and being able to revisit it here with all of you. And with that, we wrap up the month of October 1988 here in the WWF, finally. And we're going to be moving on to the month of November and November news and results. Looking at the month of November, off the top of my head, we've got another Saturday night's main event coming up just after Thanksgiving. But before we can get there, it's going to be the Survivor Series. Lots of build-up going into the big pay-per-view in just a few weeks' time. Survivor Series, Thanksgiving night, 1988. Once again, back at the Richfield Coliseum. 4 big matches, including that awesome 20-man tag. Can't wait to get there and talk about all of that. But before we do that, several weeks of TV also to get into. Remember, the Brain Busters are here now. Lots going on. We've got a couple more talents on their way in over the course of the next month or two, so stay tuned for that, guys, as well. But for now, we're going to wrap it all up. Just a final reminder, we'd really appreciate you guys checking out our Patreon account over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. We've got the $5 all access tier. Get you all sorts of gifts for just $5. But if you got a few dollars more, talking about the VIP Superfan tier, gives you the most bang for your buck, because not only do you get everything from the all access tier, but you also get access to a slew of videocasts. The Pro Wrestling videocast with Dan Ginnity, the Coliseum videocast with Gene Jackson, of course, Monday Warfare rebooted into videocast form upcoming in the month of March, plus other random videocasts. Going to be looking at the Survivor Series over there and so much more. Maybe even this edition of Saturday Night's Main Event may pop up before you know it. Talk about that a little more. Definitely worth checking out. No subscription, so you guys can cancel at any time. I think you'll love all of the goodies that we offer, though, and certainly your financial support goes a long way in keeping the WrestleCopia Podcast Network thriving, up and running here with all the great podcasts and videocasts that we offer and more on the horizon. But for right now, we wrapping up October 88, heading into the month of November. And until next time, this is Ray Russell saying, from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin and I'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. See you next week. Don't miss it. Be there!
You have the right to suffer. You have the right to feel pain. If you wish to have an attorney present, I'll hurt him too.
And you could get national exposure of the embarrassing kind.
Hey, I'm never embarrassed of my body, and besides, Jake and Damian couldn't beat me in a three-legged race.
The Harts can be extremely dangerous. Do you think you might take a somewhat conservative approach?
Yeah, Jesse, we'll be conservative, and we'll let them be liberals.
Right! Bleeding heart liberals!
Ken Patera, you will pledge allegiance to the flag of Dino Bravo.
America, either love it or leave it. So Dino Bravo, I hope your passport is in order, because tonight I'm gonna stamp it.
Your opponent tonight for the Big Boss Man, Jimmy Powers. Are you gonna handcuff him and club him like you always do?
Hey, what can I say? I mean, if the brother's guilty.
Guilty of what?
Breathing. And the sentence that you're gonna get is a lifelong dose of Hulkamania. But the only thing I'm gonna have to find out is how long the jury wants to deliberate. How long do they want me to beat you with your own stick? What are you gonna do, Big Boss Man, when the largest arms in the world and Hulkamania pass the sentence on you?
All right, His Honor, Hulk Hogan.